Appliance shopping shouldn't be overwhelming. It should be exciting. The experts at Bray & Scarf understand this, and they're ready to wow you with a Labor Day sale happening now. Not only will they answer your questions, they'll offer you deals like up to 40% off select GE appliances. Plus, free basic installation on select GE Profile and Cafe appliances. No pressure, just professionalism. At Bray & Scarf, where it doesn't cost more to get more.
Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
It's almost that time.
I got my lunch packed up, my boots tied tight. I hope I don't get in a fight. Oh, back to school.
Whether you've got kids heading back to school or you are mentally preparing yourself for the fall routine, maybe perhaps it's both, now is the perfect time to get one of the most important things back in order: your sleep routine. I'm Melanie Ng, and in this episode of The Big Story, we get the A to Z's when it comes to the importance of sleep for your physical and mental health, plus how to shake that summer sleep schedule. Joining me is sleep educator and CEO of Good Night Sleep site, Alanna McGinn.
Thank you for having me. It's so great to see you and hear your voice.
I want to start at the very beginning, the importance of sleep. Considering your line of work, you hear it day in, night out. I want to say day in, day out, but I wanted to get the Z's in there. The importance of sleep. How much do we actually need?
Depending on the age, for adults, you typically hear the 8 to 7 hours, 7 to 8 hours. I like to kind of extend that to 6 to 9. I think a well-rested individual can function fine on 6 hours of sleep. For those that are listening that think, a 4 to 5 hour night stretch consistently is enough and you feel good, I'm here to tell you that's likely not the case. What happens is when we have that consistent lack of sleep, our body actually feels like it can function on that amount of sleep because that's just the amount that it's used to. But what's going on is likely telling you a different story. So I like to kind of extend it to that 6 to 9 hours because we all have different sleep needs. But when we're talking about our kids, whether it be, our babies, our toddlers, our little ones, we're looking at 14 to 15 hours per 24 hours of sleep. So they need a lot more sleep than we do. And even when we get up to our tweens and teens, you're still looking at 8, 9, 10 hours of sleep per night.
I know it varies with individuals, but this is a broad range. So what does sleep actually do? Assuming there's both the physical and mental benefits, cognitive development, the whole slew of things. Some people say, oh, I really don't need it. As you said, those people that are the 4 to 5, I'm functioning fine. I'm good. What does a good night's sleep in a routine actually do for your body?
So when we're getting adequate rest and adequate sleep, our body is able to repair itself from the day it's had, right? We're also able to restore our energy. We're able to clear out our mind. We're able to consolidate all that information that we learned in that day. Sleep is a very popular topic this time of year for that reason, right? We have a lot, not just back to school, but for many of us adults is back at it, right? Off of summer holidays, back into work, back into the normal routine. We need that well-rested brain to cement in all that information that we're learning from school or obtaining for work. We also need to prepare our brain for the next day. Think of it as preparing it as that sponge. You mentioned, cognitive abilities, memory function, productivity, creativity, our immune system. Unfortunately, I don't even like to utter these words, but we're heading into that cold and flu season, right?
No.
So I know, we need those strong immune systems, and proper sleep for all ages is going to help us get that for sure.
Summer sleep's a weird one, right? A lot of people away on vacations, kids staying up. There's no set schedule per se. And even the weather playing a factor in this one too. At least in the Greater Toronto area, there were, to this point, I believe, 6 heat waves this summer alone. How does weather in hand with just summer all over the map, how does that all impact routine when it comes to your sleep?
I mean, summer has a huge impact on if we look at just overall routine, right? Bedtimes tend to be a lot later. Not just bedtimes, but bedtime routines tend to be a little bit more lax. Missed naps for our little ones, maybe some missed naps for ourselves, or actually maybe more naps for ourselves throughout the day, which means, less sleep perhaps at night. So it's always a good idea this time of year. I always think of September as more of like that reset, right? So it's always a good time of year to get back into your normal routine. So back into your age appropriate bedtime. And then also back into that bedtime routine that you create for yourself. We create these elaborate routines for our little ones, but we don't tend to create them for ourselves, and that's so important. When we look at weather, the heat this summer has definitely, not been very good for our sleep. I know it hasn't been for me. We all sleep better in a cooler environment. What we want our body to be doing throughout the night is really working on focusing on quality sleep, on restorative sleep. So when our body is busy trying to regulate temperature, so trying to cool down if it's too hot or trying to warm up if it's too cold, if our body's too busy on digesting a big meal that perhaps we ate too close to bedtime, it's not able to focus on good quality restorative sleep. So summer is the time of year for swapping out the big thick duvets for more breathable fabrics, more wicking fibers, more natural fibers. Think bamboos, linen, hemp, cotton, really to keep the room as cool as you can.
You hit on a number of things there in the routine, and I'd love to get back to some of them. We're thinking back to school. And as you said, not just back to school, but back to work, even just getting yourself mentally prepared there. Sleep is a big piece of that puzzle. How long would you say, I know we have limited time before back to school starts, but how long would it take your body to get back into a routine when it comes to sleep? Is it weeks? Is it days?
I think if you can plan for a week, you're good, right? If you can't do the week, 5 days, you're good. It's definitely not something you have to do weeks in advance because let's be honest, in the summer, that's hard, especially, I have 3 teenagers. I have 1 heading off to university, 2 heading off to high school for the first time. So if I told them now to get back into your routine, that
Not
just
happening.
wouldn't happen. But, for our little ones, for ourselves and cross fingers for our teens, if you can do a week before and it doesn't have to be instant, right? If you've been really pushing out that bedtime, especially for your little ones too, just small increments every day, just maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes earlier every day to get back to that bedtime. They might not even notice you're doing it, especially for our littles. That can work great. So that by the time not only are we back on the normal routine by the time we have to be back on that routine because we have to get up early for work or for school, but we've also started perhaps chipping away at that sleep debt that we maybe have accumulated throughout the summer.
The sleep debt. Love that. Okay. What about the foods? You mentioned the big meals, your body, if it's busy digesting and you're not getting that proper sleep. What about the things like the caffeine, the alcohol, the late night patios that so many people have enjoyed over the summer? What is happening to your body in the hours leading up to bedtime? And then what's happening overnight when you've got these things going through your body?
Yeah, a lot of my work is with midlife women. So a lot of my sleep and stress management focus is for midlife women. And I will say that probably one of the biggest sleep busters in that age group, and I'm not saying just for that age group, is alcohol. Absolutely, in terms of, hurting your sleep health. Alcohol, sure, it can help us fall asleep. And here's the thing. Do I love a glass of wine? Absolutely. So this isn't me telling everybody to stop drinking, but if what affects you more, the amount that you can drink if it's going to affect your sleep. I know as myself, midlife, I'm 48. I can no longer drink white wine. I know I'm going to have an awful night of sleep. It just affects me, right? So, if we eliminate that alcohol, because while it can help us fall asleep, what happens throughout the night is as the alcohol is leaving our body, that's going to cause more fragmented sleep throughout the night. And I hear a lot, I also work with babies and children, and I hear a lot of it from parents of that age where they're like, we finally got a night out. You got a babysitter for the kid. You're thinking, amazing, I can maybe sleep in a little bit in the morning. But normally you're going out, you're having a couple more drinks than your body's used to because you're used to staying home, and you have the worst night of sleep ever, right? So alcohol can definitely affect it. Caffeine in the same way. I think everyone has, same with alcohol. We all have our certain tolerance, right? So I know people who can drink a cup of coffee after dinner and fall asleep fine. I am not that person. Many of us aren't. Caffeine really affects us. So, but you have to watch the hidden caffeines in the foods, in the pops, in the, it's not just coffee and tea that we might think. So you have to limit it. If you know that you can just have a cup in the morning and that's it, that's your limit. Some of us can maybe only have it, 1 in the morning and maybe get away with 1 in the afternoon, and that's it. So learn how your body reacts to certain stimulants and stay away from them if it's really going to affect your sleep.
Here's something that I deal with often, and I know a lot of parents can relate to this. Your kid has, say, baseball, soccer, whatever. They're coming home. It's now 8:30 at night, and they're like, they burned so much, right? During that practice, during that game, they're starving when they get home, though it's now hitting close to that bedtime window. Here's the struggle that I personally have is I want to give you something, but what can I give you that won't disrupt your sleep, is not going to be heavy in your stomach as you are trying to get that great restorative sleep? Is there a proper answer? Is there something good you would recommend for kids who, yes, you want to get back into the schedule, but they are getting home late and they're not going to go to bed because they are just so hungry. So what is something good that can sit in your stomach?
This is when you just focus on those non-processed foods, right? So think natural foods, think carbohydrates, think complex carbs, think protein. So it could be like banana with a bit of butter. Also staying away, obviously, from sugar and spicy food, which you probably wouldn't be feeding your child, that at that time at night anyways. But it could be, grain toast with a bit of peanut butter. It could be a little bowl of yogurt with granola or something like that. Just think, again, unprocessed, clean food, small snack. There's nothing wrong with a bedtime snack, provided it's not this massive meal, full of sugar and processed food before you go to sleep.
What are your thoughts on sleep aids, things like natural, like melatonin? Is it a yay or is it a nay?
It depends. Melatonin really is branded and marketed as a sleeping pill, which is that's not what it is. Melatonin is our natural sleep hormone. It's very rare for us to be deficient in melatonin. And that's a quick, blood test, swab test that you can test if you are deficient in melatonin. I think it plays a role for those that travel a lot. They're going through different time zones and things like that, where they need to, melatonin helps to drive our circadian rhythms. It helps to prepare our body to sleep. So it's not like a sleeping pill in that you take it and then you instantly feel tired. But that's what it's kind of marketed and promoted as. It's available readily. So, people are kind of using it when they don't need to. You're likely also not taking the right dose you need to take. It's not released in your body in the same natural form that your natural melatonin is. So if you really want to work with your natural hormones to sleep or to wake up, cortisol when we wake up, focus on your external environment, the light and the dark of the day. Darkness is what's going to cue your brain to release that melatonin to help prepare your body to sleep. So darkening up the room, turning off the screens, turning down the lights, creating a low light environment is going to help release that melatonin. But again, for those that are traveling a lot, they need their circadian rhythms back in sync. I think it can play a role. For some individuals who take certain medications, melatonin can play a role. But I don't think it should be used as much as it is, unfortunately.
You said a magic word in your answer there, screens. Screens. That's kind of the big topic of conversation, especially you mentioned you have teenagers too, and to tear them away from screens at any time, let alone in the evening, is not a pleasant experience. What happens to our body when we've got those screens in front of us? And we shouldn't just put this on the kids because we are so guilty of it as adults.
I was just going to say, it's not just our teens.
And I know I do the exact same thing. I sleep with a phone beside me. My smartphone's right beside me. I look at it before I go to bed, right before I go to bed, even though I know it's bad for me. It's the first thing I look at when I wake up because I want to see if someone has messaged or work has emailed. what is happening to your brain as all of this is going on, looking at the screen before and after, that is bookending your sleep pattern?
Yeah. So, I mean, just talking about a lot of time when you hear about tech and sleep, it's about the bright lights and the blue lights. And yes, that can absolutely play a role. If you think of your brain, think of your brain as having that sleep switch, right? So being in front of that bright screen right before you go, because a lot of people, clients I work with, people that I speak to will say, well, I fall asleep great to the TV, or I fall asleep great. And you may fall asleep, but the sleep switch in your brain is switched off. So you're not getting that proper restorative sleep as you would had you set up your environment properly. Your sleep environment is probably the most powerful tool that you can utilize to sleep well, and darkening up the room as best you can. But with tech, I believe the bigger issue is, what are we absorbing right before we go to sleep? I'm going to be completely honest. I actually don't have a problem with tech before bedtime. And here's what I mean by that. I don't mean, have the screen right up close to your face and binge an entire season of a show till 2 o'clock in the morning. But I think stress plays a huge role in why we're not sleeping well. It's a huge component in my programs and in how I work with individuals, but primarily midlife women. If you want to watch one episode of a show that makes you feel good and makes you laugh, we all have them. What's yours, Melanie? Like, what's your like?
Oh, I have given several guilty pleasures, and it's things like,
Yeah,
Love is Blind and all of these sorts of the reality type
I'm right
shows,
there
which are
with
just
you.
so fun to
Yeah.
watch. Yeah.
Yeah, right? And if it's going to help you forget your day, like, I'm not going to tell you to not do it. Don't binge the first 8 episodes that they upload on Netflix that night. But if you want to watch one episode, I'm okay with it. Stay away from the news. Like, it's more about setting boundaries. News headlines right now, not so fun. So maybe don't watch the news before you go to bed. Don't check your work emails right before you go to bed. Stay away from the friends, the family that deplete your tank. But if chatting with a girlfriend or someone in your life that is just going to, again, make you feel better over the crappy day you've just had, FaceTime them and connect with them. Connection is so important in lowering your stress, managing your stress, and therefore sleeping better. So this is where I struggle with tech and sleep, because so many people would think that I'm going to say, keep it out of your bedroom. It's the worst thing ever. And it is. It is the biggest sleep buster. If you're really struggling with sleep, you should remove it from your bedroom. But I'm also all for, listen, life is tough right now
Yeah.
for a lot of us. And if an episode of Love is Blind is going to help me release my stress a bit before I go to bed, I'm watching it. And I think you can too.
Thank you. I'm going to tell my husband you said that right now, that you said it was totally fun and it's going to help my
Totally
sleep
good.
and my anxiety, and we are great. Final question for you is, there's this whole debate around naps. So we've talked a lot about the overnight, good night, wake up in the morning, but I'm a big fan of the nap if I can sneak one in. So let's just say it's the first week of school back, first week of back to work, full routine for a lot of people. They don't get a good sleep. So the first week, not the best. What is the ideal length of a nap? I know this will be different for different people, but what would you say would be the ideal length and atmosphere / environment for a nap?
So NASA actually did a study and proved that 24 minutes is the perfect timing for a nap. And a big reason why that is, and I get asked this question a lot, is it okay to nap? Should I or shouldn't I nap throughout the day? So if you're going to take a nap, here's the thing. If you have no issue sleeping, you're sleeping okay throughout the night, listen, we can always work a little bit on our sleep, just like we could work a little bit on what we're eating and how we're moving our body. But if for the most part you have a pretty healthy relationship with sleep and you want to take the occasional nap, I have no issues with it. And I think that that's fine. How to take that proper nap is set up a proper environment to sleep. It doesn't mean you have to go into bed and close the blinds and things, but get comfy and commit to the nap, right? If you're going to take the nap, commit to the nap.
So don't just curl up with the lights on the couch, because that's often what I do. That's not really.
I feel like if you're going to take a nap, take a nap. Take a good nap. Turn the lights off.
All right.
Set the stage. Set the stage for the nap. But if we look at a full cycle of sleep, it's about 90 minutes for an adult. And within that cycle of sleep, we have different stages of sleep. So we're still in a lighter state of sleep at about 15 to 20 minutes into a cycle. So if you wake up in that stage of sleep, do you know sometimes when you take a nap, you feel worse than when you actually originally went down for the nap?
Yes.
It's likely because you're taking too long of a nap. So if you're taking like a 60-minute, a 30-minute nap, now we're in that deep sleep phase. So you're waking up, it's what we call sleep inertia. You're waking up kind of groggy and foggy in that sleep hangover state. So if you're going to take a proper nap, 15 to 20 minutes still allows you to get enough rest to feel more productive, to feel more creative, or take the full 90-minute cycle nap. Really commit to that nap. For those that are really struggling with sleep, this is where I say it's best not to take a nap. And I know those would be the people that would probably really need it. But if you are suffering from chronic insomnia, having a lot of issues sleeping well throughout the night, we don't want to rob our sleep drive of sleep throughout the day. We want that pressure really full at night so it's easier for us to get a good night of sleep, if that makes sense.
That makes a whole lot of sense. And now I want to catch some Z's. Alanna McGinn, as always, a pleasure speaking with you. And we wish everyone the best with the back to school, back to work sleep schedule. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And that was The Big Story. You can send us feedback on this episode or any other episode by emailing us at hello@thebigstorypodcast.ca. You can find us on the Seeker app or on all of your favorite podcast players. Please make sure to rate, review, follow, and share. I'm Melanie Ng. Thank you for listening.